Hey everybody, welcome to week 3 of your semester. Hope you guys are all getting settled in. Um, and I hope these videos are helpful to you. So like I said last week, if you have any questions or suggestions, please don't hesitate to email me and let me know. I still don't have a key to my office. Apparently these things really do take time. But I'm happy to meet with you guys anywhere on campus if need be. So if something comes up in the next week, just shoot me an email and we can set something up. So this week we're going over Chapter 2 from your ServSafe textbook, which is going over forms of contamination. So specifically we're going to talk about biological, chemical, and physical contaminants, and then how to prevent those contaminations from occurring. Also, how to prevent the deliberate contamination of food. So your chapter does go over that briefly. And then also how one responds to a foodborne illness outbreak if it does occur. And then finally, common food allergens that can cause reactions and how to prevent that from happening in your organization. So first we're going to talk about biological contamination. So harmful microorganisms that can cause foodborne illnesses are called pathogens. So we have bacteria, viruses, parasites, and fungi. So we'll go over each of these pathogens in more detail here in a minute. And then the symptoms of foodborne illness are going to vary depending on what type of foodborne illness the client or customer contracts, but these are symptoms that are most likely to occur. And there are some additional symptoms that are not in this list, but again, these are just some of the more popular symptoms that one can experience. So those are important to be aware of. So now let's specifically talk about bacteria. So we have both helpful and harmful types of bacteria in the world around us. And so in a in a food service organization, we need to know the conditions in which bacteria is more likely to grow. And so the ServSafe book gives you FATTOM as a acronym to help remember the 6 conditions. So we have food, and remember from chapter 1 we have TCS foods, which are more likely to grow bacteria. And then we have acidity levels, so being aware that a pH level from 0, which is highly acidic, to 7, which is more neutral, is the happy pH level for bacteria to grow. And then with temperature, we have the danger zone, which is 41 degrees Fahrenheit to 135 degrees Fahrenheit. And then bacteria will grow even more rapidly from 70 degrees to 120 degrees. And so bacteria growth will be limited when food is held above or below the danger zone. And then because bacteria needs time to grow, the more time bacteria has in the danger zone, the more likely they are to grow to unsafe levels. So time is really important to be aware of. So oxygen is one that they say, some bacteria does need oxygen to grow, but some bacteria doesn't. But just being aware of that fact and of that area where bacteria does grow is important to be conscious of. And then finally, bacteria likes high levels of moisture, and so being aware of food that has higher water activity, and water activity is a measure of how much moisture is in that food item. So those are the different conditions to be aware of in regards to bacteria growth in a food service organization. So then these are the major types of bacteria that cause foodborne illnesses. There are lots of different types of bacteria, but these 3 are the most popular. And so in page 2.5 of your textbook, it talks about food that links with these different types of bacteria and then also prevention measures. So next we have viruses, which are carried by humans and animals and are not destroyed by normal cooking temperatures. And so one has to be aware of their source in a food service organization and know that their source is reputable and safe. And then if staff are diagnosed with hepatitis A or the norovirus, then they need to not be working in the food service organization in order to stop the spreading of the viruses. And hepatitis A and norovirus are two popular types of viruses that can cause foodborne illness. And just judging by the pictures, you can tell that these are not very fun foodborne illnesses to catch. So important to be aware of. So next we have parasites that require a host to live in and to reproduce. And they're commonly associated with seafood, wild game, and food processed with contaminated water, so fresh produce. And again, they say that the most important way to prevent parasites from being present in your food service organization is to purchase from reputable sources. Yeah, they are the key to whether or not you are going to have a foodborne illness outbreak. And then they do also briefly talk about fungi, where parasites are also more likely to grow. So then we also have biological, chemical, and physical contaminants. Biological toxins can occur naturally in some plants, mushrooms, and seafood. And so again, the most important way to prevent that is to purchase from reputable suppliers. Chemical contaminants, a lot of chemical contamination can occur in your workstation from different cleaning solutions, polishes, and lubricants, but then also pesticides, so washing your produce with uncontaminated water can prevent chemical contamination. And then physical contaminants, this, I feel like this can happen really easily. Metal shavings, as awful as they are, there's so many cans that are opened in the food service organization, in the kitchen. So, fingernails and staples, I mean, these things, glass, it's all around and very present in the kitchen. And so they talk about preventing physical contamination is, first, again, purchasing from reputable suppliers, but then also closely inspecting the food. Because again, if this does occur easily, then everybody needs to be aware and know to inspect all the food before it goes out to the customer in order to prevent foodborne illness from occurring from a physical contamination. So next we're going to talk about the deliberate contamination of food. Something that at least I personally haven't heard that much about, that it happens that often, but unfortunately it does. And they do share an incident from the 1980s where this did occur, and it's awful that people do these type of things, but they do. That's the world that we live in. So being aware of the acronym ALERT and the different steps that are associated with that acronym. Any food service manager needs to make sure that their employees are aware of that in order to try and prevent something like this from making a lot of people sick. So then if the food service organization does experience an outbreak, it happens. Being prepared and knowing the important steps to take after that does occur is listed in the book. And so these are the different steps, and then they go into detail about each different step. So so that's something to be aware of. And then finally, they talk about food allergens. So um, they list the common food allergens, common types of food that will cause an allergic reaction. And they also list the different symptoms. So those are important for an employee to be aware of, so that they can see if this is happening, immediately, because some allergic reactions occur immediately. Some take time to develop, but for an employee to be aware of the symptoms and the different types of foods that can cause allergies or cause allergic reactions, is important to be aware of. And then they talk about how to prevent allergic reactions, which we'll go over on the next slide here. And they have information for service staff, and then they also have information for kitchen staff. So one of the important points that they make is that in any food service organization, you should always have at least one staff member that is able to answer customers' questions about menu items at all times. And so you should have someone be able to describe the dish and know what ingredients are in the different menu items. And then they talk about, with kitchen staff, the importance of making sure you don't transfer allergens from one food item to the other. So they use the fryer oil example, and then also kind of a cross-contamination idea with surfaces, preparing surfaces. So anyway, that's the information from this week. Let me know if you guys have any questions or concerns. I hope the activity goes well, and I hope you guys all have a good week. Thanks.